Wow, guys, guess what? iPadOS 16 came out. iOS 16 is out. I finally get to resize Windows and not have them glitch out on me. I now get to use iCloud shared library. I now get to have satellite wallpapers on my phone. Who wants this?
And
Who
you get
wants
social
this?
media features in Safari.
So you probably saw the title of the video and you're wondering what is this all about? What is Apple's lockdown mode? And Apple, I'm firmly in the belief that Apple is flat out deceiving people. And I'll explain what I mean by Apple deceiving people in the nicest way possible because they're begging you, please use the features of our phones and our computers and all right, well, all right, fine. Well, Pineapple, I'll give you a chance. I'll try to do my best Craig Federighi impression, okay? Lockdown mode is an optional, extreme protection that's designed for the very few individuals because of who they are or what they are might be personally targeted by sophisticated digital threats. Most people are never targeted by attacks of this nature. All right, already, let's say this is true. All right, we're doing good so far, Apple. Okay, when lockdown mode is enabled, your device won't function like it typically does. To reduce the attack surface that could potentially be exploited by high target mercenary spyware, certain apps, websites, and features are strictly limited for security, and some experiences might not even be available at all. Good, I say. I don't care about your stupid features. I only use my phone to text and call people. What a waste. Lockdown mode is enabled for iOS 16, iPadOS 16, and macOS Ventura. All right, great. And then they list off a bunch of stuff. But let's be real, guys. You're all educated people. You've seen all of this already. You've probably seen millions of YouTube personalities actually say, oh, tell you, oh, this is what it does, but they probably never actually showed you how any of this actually works or how to use any of it, and that pisses me off a lot. By the end of this video, I hope to convince you, please use lockdown mode. Everyone, unless any of these things bother you, should be using lockdown mode. Use lockdown mode whenever you can. Leave it on all the time. And heck, I even have some things that even people who did talk about it didn't even document. I'm going to bring them up now and really give you all a piece of my mind of what this is. And I'll explain why you have to use it. So I have in front of me an iPad. I have made it clear that I have an iPad in the past. Okay, this is not some sort of secret. And you know, if I was really being saucy, I should have just made my home screen like anime girls, and people would be losing their minds and like booming in the comments. But there's only so much I can do, right? You're probably wondering, well, how do you turn on lockdown mode? So the first thing you do is you go into the settings, okay? And then you go into privacy and security. You go to lockdown mode and you hit the on button. Now, I can't actually show you what happens when you hit the on button because when you do, Apple's going to give you a big spooky warning. Just say yes and then reboot your phone or your iPad, whatever. And if you're on macOS, knowing Ventura, the menu is probably going to look exactly like this because Apple, and that's what they do. You've gotten through all the steps. Lockdown mode is on. Now what happens? Well, when you open Safari, I have this open. Look, it says lockdown ready. Huh? No, that's a rather funny thing. Why does it say that? Probably wondering, well, what does this actually do? Because if I go to a website, I'm just gonna go to google.com, you know, unsuspicious website, you know, as unsuspicious as Google gets at least. You can see nothing has pretty much changed. But here's one thing that I do want to point out. All right, if you have ad blockers, so for example, you will see here that I am using AdGuard. Okay, you need to re-enable this because if you turn on lockdown mode, they just turn off all of your content blockers. I don't know why. So if this ever happens to you, you have to
Because
go.
they could be trackers and they could be tracking you.
So you go to Safari, and then you gotta scroll all the way down to the thing that says extensions. It's this thing right here. Click extensions, and then you'll see a thing, and just go and turn on all of these. And because I'm using AdGuard, I have to turn this thing on. Oh, by the way, let's chill AdGuard. If you use Apple products, you should be using AdGuard, at least if you're using Safari. And this is true of the Mac OS too, because uBlock Origin doesn't exist on Safari, because if people who are like whining in the streets about Manifest v3, they have Apple users have been suffering through this for like 4 years. They
Which,
have
by the
no
way,
idea.
if whatever Manifest v3 is bringing is what Safari is right now, I don't know how people are going to cope, because Safari has been like the worst browser, unless you like, Apple integrations, for like ever. It's been like objectively inferior to all of the other browsers for a very long time.
So I have in the filters here. I'll give you my hot take recommended filters. I know there's like people who say online you need to be careful the filters you enable, but just know what you're turning on, okay? Me, my mind, you turn on everything. AdGuard, anything with AdGuard in its name, you turn on, because AdGuard, unless it's the experimental filter. So turn on all the AdGuard filters, and I also turned on EasyList. For those who don't know, EasyList is the most popular host file for lots of nonsense on the internet. And then we also turned on Easy Privacy. Easy Privacy is another one. Oh, I guess I turned on all this other stuff too. Why did I do that? Whatever. I'll turn it off. Not a big deal. Social widgets, again, AdGuard has their own thing. Annoyances, this is my favorite. This is actually my selling point now for what people download on their phones. This is awful. We got ad block warning removal, because I hate the people who do that to me. And the other one, I've mentioned it before, the easy list cookie list, to remove those stupid GDPR cookie banners that are plastered on every single website ever. It's sad that like the easy list cookie list is now my selling point to get people to use Brave and uBlock Origin. It's horrible. Right, but that's
Yes, I understand the internet uses cookies. Now stop informing me.
so we have AdGuard here, and just enable it. You click on the box here and just enable it for all websites. What's actually interesting too, and I actually do want to point this out, is if you have an app that uses a web browser for an interface, I actually don't have it installed on my iPad here, but if I look up, oh, look at all this garbage. I know for a fact that if you use the Tutnoda, yeah, Tutnoda is a good example. So the Tutnoda app, for example, the Tutnoda app has a thing where the Tutnoda app actually uses a built-in web browser, and the reason why they do this is because, one, their client is literally just a glorified front end for a web browser that only uses Tutnoda. But the other reason is because they do this to protect you from email trackers. So when you open the Tutnoda app for the first time, you will actually get told lockdown mode is enabled because that's what Safari does. Safari just tells you lockdown mode's enabled, and it'll actually be a big flash on screen which says lockdown mode is actually enabled for this app. So that's at least what happens with apps, right? But you're probably wondering, well, Matt, what's the difference? I don't see anything different about this. Um, you'll probably, and like, how did Apple create this thing which limits how your phone runs? They created this thing to limit what JavaScript can do on my phone, or my Mac. How does that work? Well, the reason it works is because Apple didn't create it themselves. For anyone in a little bit of the know, Microsoft Edge was actually the one to create this. Microsoft Edge has it buried away, and it isn't even labeled this, but the internal name and how people refer to it is hilarious, because the mode they call it to is the super duper secure mode, which actually limits the compiling of in-time JavaScript, which is actually a very common vulnerability for anyone using the Blink web engine. And the Blink web engine is used by any non-Firefox based browser. So if you use Safari, which is based off of the open source WebKit framework, or if you use Chromium, both of which use the Blink web engine, the Blink web engine over the years has actually been subject to various attacks using compiled in-time JavaScript. And by removing compiled in-time JavaScript, they're actually able to protect themselves, so that you aren't bitten by a malicious thing of JavaScript which goes here and there, because we all know that it's you can't get something like no script on your iPad. And definitely not Safari. At least not easily, because you have to go. And this is why I am to the point where I am seen anyone who installs like Chrome. This is the weirdest example. Okay, I know someone who downloaded Chrome for for like their iPhone. Normal. I'm like, okay, whatever. You have Chrome on your iPhone. But the funniest part was she was like, I can't get to Amazon and YouTube. Like, what? So I tried getting to Amazon and YouTube. It wouldn't let me. In fact, I was like, oh, so it must be the new Apple update. Tried downloading the new Apple update, doesn't work. I'm like, why isn't this working? And then out of desperation, I'm like, we gotta do the most complicated internet thing. You're like, man, what's the most complicated internet thing? Turn your phone off and turn it back on again.
Wow.
People don't turn off their phones. It's so shocking to me. So I turned it off, turned it back on again. Boom, she has internet again. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be using Chrome. Just use Safari. Because Chrome is just a glorified skin of Safari. All these browsers are glorified skins of Safari. I'm so done playing games with all these things. I've never recommended everyone who said someone online said I recommended DuckDuckGo's browser to them. No, I did not. I never recommended the browser. I think the browser's awful. It's awful on Android too. I'm sorry, but it is. At least with this, you'll also notice there's at least one flaw that I found. So I'm going to go to another popular Google website, one of my personal favorites actually. You can go here yourself. It's actually a great research. Go to fonts.google.com. And you're wondering, what? Something went wrong? Please try again soon. Now, why did something go wrong? You can see when I refresh the page here, it actually flashes for a little bit. And you're like, well, why is it doing this? And it's because lockdown mode blocks certain fonts from appearing within your web browser. Keep in mind, whenever you use a website, if you ever see something that looks like a blue square, just know that that website won't display fonts while you have lockdown mode enabled. And you're like, but Matt, I want to look at Google Fonts on my computer. I want on my computer, your Mac or your iPad or your iPhone. What do? I want to actually look at this website. Well, what do you need to do? All right. If you go, this is Apple only added documentation like last Monday. So, which is really depressing that I even need to point this out. So if you go to the little letters here, it actually looks like two A's. I don't even know why they do this. It's actually really buried away, and it took me a million years to figure this out because I'm an old man. If you go here, then you'll see there's lots of various settings. Just click on website settings. You'll see I'm actually hovering right now. You want to go to website settings. So go to website settings. And then you'll see that there's a bunch of other options here. And you'll also notice that there's a thing here which says lockdown mode. And this is a new option that's added if you use lockdown mode. So if you go here and you uncheck this box, and then it says, are you sure you want to turn off lockdown mode for fonts.google.com, or insert name of website here. Lockdown mode protection will be turned off for this website. This may increase security risk if you believe you may be targeted in a highly personal, sophisticated cyber attack. Google is a very secure company. I highly doubt it. I'm going to turn it off. And you'll notice that I turn it off. And you'll also notice that the page refreshes, and look at that. I can now look at all of Google's fonts again, just like I would. But you'll also notice at the top in red letters, it says lockdown mode is off. Giving you a big spooky warning. And this is actually one of the cool, and this is why I believe, unless you're playing stupid iMessage games, you should just be using lockdown mode like all the time. If you know how to go up here and then you go down to website settings and then you turn it on or off, if you know how to do that, you'll never have any problems. Here, let's give another cute little example, right? It's an embarrassing editing challenge I did on Twitter a million years ago. Did you know the Huffington Post wrote an article about me? The article's in French. I can read it, but I know some people might have trouble. So this is a video that I uploaded to Twitter, and I'm actually using a Twitter front end here. And look, it's already a great example because we're starting to see some of the effects of lockdown mode. You'll see that these are supposed to be like the RSS feed buttons in the search bar and stuff, but you'll notice that they're just squares. Hilarious. But again, we all know how to fix that, right? But the reason why I'm bringing up something like Knitter, which is the Twitter front end that I'm using here, one of the interesting things about lockdown mode, and I'm not quite sure why they do this, because this is an undocumented Apple feature. So if you go play an MP4 video, and you can hear that I'm playing MP4 video here. Um, so you'll notice that Apple should normally give you the ability to select picture in picture at the top right corner. Um, but what's interesting is you'll notice you'll try to click tapper up here, but the option isn't there. Isn't that strange? That's really strange, right? How do I and I realized after enabling and disabling lockdown mode, it's actually lockdown mode which causes this issue. So if you go to the end of the menu, go down to website settings, go to website settings, and then disable lockdown mode. So I will disable lockdown mode, hit done, and you'll see the page refreshes. And I can play the video again, and you'll notice the picture-in-picture window comes back. Huh, that's really, really interesting. That's so weird. Why does that happen? And look, you can still do the same picture-in-picture video that iPhone users hadn't had for like years and Android users did. You know, funny stuff like that. Look, you can even pause the video and go forward and do all the normal things that the youngsters do with their such a basic feature, right? And this is and look, you'll even see the fonts came back because I disabled lockdown mode, right? And that's the funniest thing about this. This is why I want to cover it. But you're probably wondering, okay, you've shown me how. All right, Matt, you showed me how to fix fonts on websites. You showed me how to fix not being able to get my precious picture-in-picture video. But what else can I do? Well, why else should I use lockdown mode? Well, I actually want to point this out because this is actually a very important thing that I don't think ever gets discussed, and hopefully this arises some discussion. And we've loosely mentioned it in some videos before. The difference between privacy and security, and I'm going to bring up this test. Okay, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. This test is actually run by the people at the cloud company Crypty. For those who don't know, Crypty is like their cloud storage where they're sort of an equivalent to, I guess, Google Photos or like Google Drive. Sort of Google Drive and Google Photos smushed into one. But one of the interesting things that Crypty did was they created a lockdown mode detection test proof of concept. And they actually discovered, at least in their initial testing, that there is actually, because of the way WebKit is designed, there's actually no way for anyone to stop, including Apple, to stop websites from detecting if people are using lockdown mode or not. And you're probably wondering, well, how is this possible? And actually, what does this actually translate to into the real world, right? So lockdown mode is supposed to be a high security feature, but let's see, Crypty's test here is taking millions of years. The Crypty test is at least designed to
So
show.
it proves that lockdown mode is high security but not high anonymity.
Well, it's not
I
necessarily.
guess.
It's more that it's inherent using lockdown mode or using something like Microsoft Edge's super duper secure mode makes users more fingerprintable. And this is actually a willful trade-off that both Microsoft and Apple actually chose to do. And but they have actually good reasons of doing it, right? Taking the measures that Microsoft and Apple did with their web browsers is because they did it because it enhances the security of their users because they want their users to be more secure. But the trade-off of this is if a website knows that you're using lockdown mode, they can figure it out if they know what to look for because they know, oh, lockdown mode users can't configure JavaScript this way, so I will test that way they disable JavaScript. And then you're wondering, should you be worried about this? And it's like, well, it all depends. If you're a high threat model, this might matter to you if you're being targeted, but for most people, this probably doesn't mean much. But what it basically translates to is if you use lockdown mode, you should be using it anyway. Because what lockdown mode does is, one, it does a billion things I think Apple should do by default, which is not shovel in a bunch of useless features I'm never going to use in my life. But two, one of the reasons to use lockdown mode is lockdown mode actually provides a great window for people to protect the 1%, probably even less than 1% of people who legitimately need lockdown mode. So by using lockdown mode, you are protecting the people who legitimately need it. Sort of similar to how if everyone uses lockdown mode, they are protecting the very small minority of people who actually need it. So by you using lockdown mode, you are
So
doing every person who needs it a service because you are protecting them.
so if you walk down the street with a Guy Fawkes mask, you are very unique because you're the only person wearing a Guy Fawkes mask. But if everyone is wearing a Guy Fawkes mask, now you're not unique because everyone looks the same.
I'm gonna say, everyone, if you have an iPhone, you have an iPhone, you have an iPad, you're using Ventura like a crazy person because you shouldn't be using Ventura right now, then you should be using lockdown mode. Turn it on right
Let's put
now.
it this way. I'm not using Ventura right now.
But turn on lockdown mode. You have iOS 16. You should be around right. You should be having it right now anyway. If you don't, you're not receiving security updates. Okay, uh, you need to be using lockdown mode. Just period. You need to be using it. Gotta be using it. It's like, unless you're one of the people who are like, but Matt, I want to play my iMessage games. It's like, fine, turn it off. There's nothing I can do about. Look, you can only can. What's hilarious about lockdown mode is you can only configure some parts of its features for Safari, but you can't configure it for like some little but you can configure it for like little things in their like in like lockdown mode's protections. Here, I'll show you. So like, let's say, oh, I want to shared albums are removed and new shared album invitations will be blocked. And it's like, but what if I want to use shared album? Nope, sorry, Bucko, you don't get it at all. It's all or nothing. And it's like, what? What if I only want some of these things? What if I want to have lockdown mode and play my iMessage games? No, not allowed. And then there's like some stuff in here which I wish was a default, right? Device connections. Wired connections of another device or accessory will be locked or blocked. I don't know a single person who plugs in like USB-C dongles, or if you're an old person, lightning dongles into your device to use USB devices in a tablet or a phone. It's crazy. Like,
In all fairness, though,
that's
on your computer, though, that's definitely a thing that you would do.
not an iPad.
Yeah, not an iPad, though.
None of this is only for iPads and iOS. This does not apply for computers.
Oh, they
Hilarious.
don't have it on. I think at the beginning I thought you said it was on Ventura.
No, it is, but not this one.
Oh,
This is just for mobile. Yeah, comedy. FaceTime calls for other people you called are blocked. Why weren't they by default? Doesn't that mean someone could have just flooded my phone number with FaceTime calls? Stupid. It's like that. This configuration profiles cannot be installed unless you disable lockdown mode. Okay, fine. Look, I get that one. That's a good one. Like, heck, like, if your workplace makes you install a configuration profile, you have bigger problems on your hands. Let's put it that way. Okay? Incoming invitations to Apple services for people you've not previously invited are blocked. Good. If I'm going to invite them, I'm going to do it myself. See, some of this stuff should just be default. It's crazy to me. All right? Last thing, configure web browsing. If you go to excluded websites, this is the only category right now, but you can see for the two things right here, like knitter and for fontsofgoogle.com, you can see I have them. So if you want to, like, see everything you have in here, you can even edit them. You can even check little boxes and clear all the settings for them. And so this way it just logs all the websites you've ever configured lockdown mode for. You can turn them on and off and do what you need to do. That's it. Okay, all right, what's the takeaway of the video? Okay, you go into the settings, you turn on lockdown mode. Please turn on lockdown mode. Go turn on lockdown mode. Okay, second thing, throw away all of your iOS browsers. I don't care if it's Chrome, DuckDuckGo, Firefox, God forbid, Opera. Throw them all away. I don't care who it is, just throw it away. They're literally providing you nothing of value. I guarantee it. I mean, it's like, but I want my bookmark sync. It's like, who actually uses bookmarks on their phone? They just Google things. They don't actually use bookmarks. All right, I'm done. All right. And then for ad blocking, just use AdGuard. It's literally your only option. If you want to pay them money for DNS protection, great. I don't, but if you want to, great. Because I just doing stuff in a web browser this basically means your phone's crippled anyway. And that's pretty much it. You know how to do those things, you're pretty much good to go. There's literally just nothing to it. So leave a like on this video. Like this video if you like protecting the 1% of people who use lockdown mode, and subscribe for more Apple hating. I love hating on Apple. I like to applaud them, but they do something right, but that almost never happens. That's like a once in every 2 year thing. All right? All right. Thank you all for watching. See you all later. Enjoy your... I hope you don't enjoy Ventura. You shouldn't be using it right now. If you are, you're a masochist. Don't use it.
Please leave in the comments any issues that you've been having with Ventura so that we can create a documented list.